let's talk about time management and burnout. Hey sitters, welcome back to another video. It is Lydia, thanks for joining me. And in today's video, we're going to talk about ways we can avoid burnout and use time management efficiently to help us avoid burnout. So back when I was working as an individual, I didn't have a babysitting team. I was working with 30 clients on my own, and I was working about 5 to 6 days a week babysitting in the evenings. And I got to the point of burnout so many times, and I couldn't identify why. Some days I enjoyed babysitting, and some days I really did not want to go in. And it was just the fact that I was babysitting so often, and I wasn't taking time to myself. So time management is a great way to avoid burnout, making sure that you are managing your time, your days, to make sure you're not babysitting so many times in a row. So for example, back when I was babysitting often, I made sure Wednesday nights were my nights. I wouldn't book myself on a Wednesday night because then I would take that time to catch up on sleep or homework or a self-care day. I was doing things for me. That way I wasn't feeling angry or dreading the idea of going to work the next day or the next couple days. And I chose Wednesday because it was it wasn't a big night for people to need a babysitter. Fridays and Saturdays were those big days. So time management, understanding that you have to prioritize yourself over others. You need to make sure that you're good enough to help others when babysitting. So time management is important. For those of you that are in school still, making sure that you are understanding that education is important and it should come before babysitting. So if your grades are lacking and you realize that you're babysitting often and a lot of nights in a row, maybe start backing off of babysitting so often and focus on schoolwork. A lot of my families understand that education is important, and especially when I was in high school, they understood that I needed study nights basically, and they were okay with that. I don't ever shoot a family down. I try to reschedule them. So for example, when I wasn't working those Wednesday nights, if somebody asked me, I'm not available Wednesday night, but I am available Thursday night, and most of the families would take me up on that. So just being aware of what you need before you put babysitting gigs on your calendar. And speaking of calendars, that was another way I was making sure I didn't miss a babysitting gig, but that I was also scheduling things for myself, was using a physical calendar. I took that thing everywhere. So I would write out who I was babysitting for, what time, and on the date, obviously. But it was a good visualization of, wow, I'm working 20 days out of the month right now. Next month, I want to work a little bit more, or I want to work less. You can use it either way, right? And a lot of the times I would look at my month and I'd be like, okay, I need to slow down, or I need to take off. Or if I had family events going on, it was visually easy to see, oh, I cannot babysit on that weekend. Because when I first started babysitting, I said yes. I didn't look at a calendar, I just kept saying yes to everybody. And there would be times where I double book myself and not even realize it. So using a physical calendar to time manage and visibly see when you're available and when you're not is important. So what are a couple other ways that I avoided burnout? So that first one is the calendar, making sure that I see, oh man, I am working a lot this month. Let's schedule in some self-care weekends or days or vacations or whatever it be. But the other way I avoided burnout is being creative with the kids. There were so many times I'd go into the house without a babysitting bag, and I would be so bored because we're playing with the same toys in the same ways, creating the same crafts because they only had a limited supply. We were drawing, or it was very boring to me. And when things are boring and repetitive, I don't want to do it, and I dread going in. So bringing a babysitting bag helped with that burnout. I was excited to bring them toys. They were excited to see me, and that time went by faster that I was in the house rather than me just waiting and watching the clock tick by. Another thing that can contribute to burnout is accepting disrespect from the children. In the earlier days I was babysitting, again, I was saying yes to everybody. I wasn't confident enough to say, hey, your children are actually really disrespectful, or we had this problem while babysitting, and I just let behaviors slide, and I was resentful to going into these houses, and therefore that resentment kind of turned into burnout because, again, I just was having a hard time wanting to go, and I enjoyed babysitting. So once I started saying to parents the truth and being honest with families about, actually we had a little bit of trouble, or they were being very disrespectful, and the parents started addressing that behavior with their kids, and I had better days with them, my burnout was less, or my resentment was less going into those households. So being sure that you are physically using a calendar to write things out, add in self-care days in between gigs, then also being sure that you're bringing a babysitting bag to keep things interesting and fun for both you and the children so the time passes quickly, and then also being honest about disrespectful behaviors or behaviors that you don't want to see every time you're in the house, addressing those with the family. This can all avoid burnout, and it can make babysitting a lot more fun and interesting when you don't feel so burnout. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know down in the comment section below. Please try to avoid burnout, especially if you enjoy babysitting. It can be very hard to go from loving something to resenting something very quickly just because you're overworking yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.